It was a cold November afternoon, and the city of Chicago was bustling as usual. Donald Trump, dressed in his long blue-black coat and red tie, had just finished a series of meetings and decided to walk back to his hotel, taking in the city's energy. He could have taken a cab or his private car, but instead, he chose to walk down Michigan Avenue, feeling the cold air on his face while soaking in the rhythm of the city. As he passed through the shops and the crowds, his attention was drawn to a woman sitting hunched against a building on a corner near Millennium Park. Her clothes were old and worn, and her hands trembled as she held a cardboard sign that read, "Veteran in Need, Please Help." Trump stopped in his tracks. He hadn't noticed her until now, but her weary eyes made him pause. Ignoring the bustling crowd around him, Trump approached her. The noise of the city seemed to fade, and for a moment, it was just him and the woman standing there. "Excuse me," Trump said. "What's your name?" The woman looked up, startled. She hadn't expected anyone, especially not someone like Donald Trump, to pay her any attention. "Teresa," she said hesitantly. "Teresa Hensley." "Teresa," Trump repeated softly. "Are you a veteran?" She nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes, I served in the Army for 12 years. Got injured overseas. Things haven't been easy since." Trump absorbed her words, his eyes softening. "Why are you out here? Don't you have a place to stay?" he asked. Teresa shook her head. "I lost my apartment a few months ago. Couldn't keep up with the rent. I've been trying to get back on my feet, but it's hard." Her words hit Trump harder than he expected. Here was someone who had served her country, now reduced to begging on the streets. He couldn't just walk away. Trump reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and dialed a number. His assistant, Margaret, picked up immediately. "Margaret," Trump said quickly, "I need you to find the nearest hotel with availability and get a doctor to check this woman. Tell them it's urgent." Margaret responded without hesitation, and Trump hung up, returning to Teresa, who was watching him with a mixture of confusion and hope. "Help is on the way," he assured her. "But first, let's get you something warm to eat." Trump flagged down a food vendor and bought Teresa a steaming bowl of soup and a sandwich. She ate slowly, her hands shaking from the cold. Trump stood beside her, asking about her life, her time in the Army, and how she ended up in this situation. She spoke of deployments, the friends she had lost, and the injury that had ended her career. She explained how the transition to civilian life had been much harder than she had imagined. Minutes later, a sleek black SUV pulled up to the curb. Margaret had worked quickly. A well-dressed driver stepped out and opened the door for Teresa. Trump gently helped her to her feet and said, "This is for you. We're taking you somewhere safe." Teresa hesitated, still confused. "Why are you doing this, Mr. Trump? You don't even know me." Trump looked her in the eye. "Because someone should have done this a long time ago." The SUV whisked them away to a nearby luxury hotel. The hotel staff, prepped by Margaret, greeted Teresa like a VIP and escorted her to a suite on the top floor. There, a hot shower, fresh clothes, and a warm bed awaited her. A doctor arrived shortly after to examine her, providing medicine and advice on how to regain her health. Trump stayed nearby, making sure everything was handled smoothly. Meanwhile, Margaret had contacted Veterans United Support Services, a nonprofit organization that helps homeless veterans reintegrate into society. Within the hour, their representative, Lisa, arrived to meet Teresa. "Don't worry," Lisa said, sitting beside her. "We're going to help you with housing, job training, and anything else you need. You're not alone anymore." Teresa's eyes filled with tears. She looked at Trump, who stood quietly in the corner, and said, "I don't know how to thank you." Mr. Trump stepped forward with a kind smile. "You don't need to thank me, Teresa. You earned this a long time ago." By the next morning, Teresa had a new plan for her life. Veterans United had found her temporary housing, and Trump had arranged for his foundation to cover her rent for the first year. He even handed her a check to help with any immediate expenses. As Trump prepared to leave, Teresa stopped him. "Mr. Trump," she said, her voice steady, "you've changed my life in ways I can't describe. Thank you very much." Trump smiled and replied, "You're going to do great things. Just promise me one thing. Pay it forward." "I will," she said, with newfound determination in her voice. As Trump walked out of the hotel and back into the bustling city, he felt a quiet sense of satisfaction. In just a few hours, one life had been transformed, and for Teresa Hensley, the future suddenly looked bright.